All right, real quick. So I'm gonna put the Greenfield protest up. I'm just gonna give you a quick background about it, and then after the protest footage, we'll go into my post. So this was a protest in Greenfield, Wisconsin, which is right next to Wauwatosa. The officer in Wauwatosa that shot the 17-year-old black kid that got suspended during the officer-involved shooting, and the DA decided whether or not they're going to charge him. They said, we're not going to charge him. And then protest started in Wauwatosa. We saw footage of that the first couple of nights. They blocked off the National Guard was there. They blocked off several areas. There was a curfew, so they went exclusively into the residential area and did a bunch of damage. We all saw that footage. Well, after the curfew, a few days after it started, after the curfew was lifted and after the guard left and it was just police, Wauwatosa did something that nobody else has done yet, and that is they shut it down. It's the first city in the country, as far as I know, that has completely shut down protests. Said, oh, fuck it. You want to go out and protest? Fine. You're staying on the sidewalk. You're not impeding traffic. So, of course, not only are you not allowed to burn or destroy anything, but you're going to stay on the sidewalk and follow the law. After doing that for, a week and a half, whatever it's been, I guess they were getting tired of it. Well, this officer that was involved in that shooting has moved to the next town over, Greenfield. I'm not sure, because the city of Wauwatosa said they were going to retain his employment. But I think he has applied for and perhaps gotten hired in the city of Greenfield, next suburb over. So they decided they were going to do a Greenfield protest. So today they went out. They were out for a couple hours. I was with them for a little bit, and aside from impeding traffic and being loud, they didn't do anything else. Now, this was a very specific group. I forget the name of it, but this was a very specific group, and they had made a point of saying they didn't want to do anything violent. But before I show you this footage, the only thing I want to say to keep it in perspective is, first of all, Wauwatosa shut that shit down. They really have made no progress in Wauwatosa. The city of Greenfield took the same position. They protected that cop's house. They would not let them into the area. They had cinder blocks and squads blocking off access to the neighborhood he was in, so there was absolutely no way for them to get into that neighborhood, first of all. Second, city of Greenfield had a very heavy police presence all over. They even had somebody following the protest, not an unmarked squad. They had a DPW guy following, but they had an eye on him the whole time. Okay, second. Third, even though a lot of the neighborhoods that they went through, I'm sure some of those people were not into what they were saying, nobody said anything. No counter protesters showed up. No patriots showed up. Nobody from a residential house yelled Trump 2020 or fuck the BLM or anything else. And I only say that to put this in perspective, as they easily can say this was peaceful. I was there. It was peaceful. Aside from it and being a little bit obnoxious, shining lights into people's houses and playing some loud music, they were generally peaceful. They were done by 9 o'clock, probably trying to leave before whatever the city ordinance noise violation time was, which is normally 9 or 10 o'clock for most cities. So they wrapped it up early, and they kept it pretty tame. But just remember, what other choices did they have? And they also didn't have anybody there saying anything against what they were saying. So here's that footage, and then I'll be back with my post.
Convict Joseph
much understand this, and I don't really need to go into great detail, but that is, this shit is not going to stop. And I don't mean the protests are going to continue, even though they will continue. I mean, it's 35 degrees here. That protest you just saw is people walking in 35 degrees, and they walked a considerable distance through nothing but residential neighborhoods. So it'll slow down a little bit in states like this where it gets colder and it's a little harder for large groups to gather, but this stuff's not going to stop. But I don't even mean the protests. What I mean is, this has gotten pretty serious, man. People who are pro-Trump versus people who are pro-Biden, which is the same as pro-BLM and they're pretty much two groups. Of course, there are several differences within each group and what specific shit they endorse or agree with. Point is, this country is fractured, and it does not matter who wins the election. I mean, it matters in the sense that if Trump wins, then these protests are going to stop, because they're going to get significantly worse for a short period of time, and then they're going to get shut down. If Biden wins, they're going to continue, and they're just going to keep going forever, I believe. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, have you thought about how polarizing this is? I mean, do you have anybody, are you pro-Trump, let's just say, and you have somebody in your family who is pro-Biden? Hard to talk to them, right? Fucking up the ability to get together with your family and even have any kind of rational conversation. I mean, it happens on Facebook constantly. People who are pro-Biden, I can't stand them fucking Trump people, I'm unfriending them. And same way around, I can't stand those fucking communist Biden BLM people, I'm unfriending them. I'm not even fucking talking to them no more. This is happening again and again and again. And it doesn't really matter who wins the election, because this country's split enough that everybody's going to think, well, my guy didn't win, but fuck it. I'm not supporting the other person. That's not my president. That's not a win. I don't consider this over with. And if Trump wins, like I said, the protests are going to continue, and there's going to be a large contingency of people, let's call them Democrats for the fucking sake of an easy explanation. There'll be a lot of those people that are not happy and are just not going to shut up about it. And the other fucking hand, if Biden wins, do you think any of the Trump people or any of the patriots are going to be quiet about it? They're going to be constantly talking about how bad stuff's going, especially if he does what he says he's going to do. And Harris has said when they get in office, immediately ending tax cuts and immediately doing this and doing that. They're going to try to change stuff right away to show people, yeah, this is what we said and this is what we're going to do. Do you think that the patriots are going to be okay with that? It's not going to be okay. The families aren't going to fix themselves. November 4th isn't going to come along. The election's over. The election's decided. Let's just say it's decided within a day and it doesn't get dragged out for weeks. Let's say that happens. Do you think that families are just going to be okay? Your mom or your dad or your fucking brother or your sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, aunt, uncle, you think that if you were already arguing over this shit now on Facebook or in person, you think Thanksgiving's just going to be okay? Half of the room is going to be pissed off. You think Christmas is just going to be okay? Now, this shit don't end. This doesn't end. This does not end until something decisive happens. I mean, Biden was already discredited pretty well with the laptop, with the phone calls, because it looks like he might have done something treasonous while he was in office. Because accepting money to promote meetings is treasonous. It's not the absolute worst kind of treason, but it's a kind of treason. There are implications that there was more, but the point is that stuff's been substantiated, and all that happens from the left, all that you get is, well, that's disinformation. So I see this terrible pattern forming where every time something happens that someone doesn't agree with, they just decide to say it's disinformation. So that's all that's going to happen from now on. People aren't even going to be open to argument. They're not even going to be open to evidence to change their mind and modify their position. Remember I talked about willful idiots, and I said a person doesn't do something different once they get new information. It's good to have a good position and stay steady, but when you learn something new, you have to modify your position accordingly. So these people that are taking the anti-Trump, anti-right, anti-whatever position, they're not even willing to hear this evidence. And now, in the last couple of days, we've had all this stuff about this weird sex shit. Now, of course, that has to be substantiated more, but there seems to be a kernel of truth to it. But I have a feeling that even if it's as bad as they say, even if there's fucking pedophilia and incest as it is indicated on this laptop, even if that turns out to be true, I still don't think it's going to sway very many people. I think they're just going to choose to not believe it. Or somebody's going to say it's not true and they're going to latch onto it. And my point just being, it doesn't really matter what happens at this point. It doesn't matter who wins the election. It doesn't matter what evidence comes out to sway people. It just doesn't fucking matter. This is not going to go away. Something more drastic is going to happen. It's going to have to be in people's faces. So I went tonight to a protest that was in a suburb. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to see more.